Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into mental health and using this really interesting podcast episode called Mind Matters to help guide us.
Okay.
We really want this deep dive to paint a clearer picture of mental health for you and why it's so important, and of course give you some tips that you can use to improve your well-being. One of the things I really like about this Mind Matters episode is how it talks about the spectrum of mental health. So it's not just about illness.
Right.
It's also about feeling good and thriving.
Yeah, what I think is so fascinating about that is that this episode tackles the misconception that mental health is only relevant when there's a problem. It really emphasizes that mental health is something we all have.
Okay.
It's like physical health.
I like that comparison.
Yeah.
So we all have mental health. Got it. But what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, think of it this way. Just like we have physical checkups,
Yeah.
we also need to check in with our mental well-being. It's not just about being free from illness. It's also about cultivating positive qualities like confidence, purpose,
Yeah.
and resilience.
I love that. So it's shifting the focus from just surviving to actually thriving.
Exactly.
And speaking of thriving, this Mind Matters source material doesn't shy away from the elephant in the room, which is the stigma surrounding mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are even some specific phrases that it points out that perpetuate this stigma, like just snap out of it,
Oof.
which honestly makes me cringe a little.
I know, it's so common.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate. That's why the source material calls it out. Because these dismissive phrases trivialize very real struggles that people are facing.
Right.
And they contribute to this harmful misconception that mental health issues aren't real illnesses.
Which is so untrue. It's like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off.
Honestly, it's completely unhelpful and invalidating.
No.
What we really need is more empathy and understanding, recognizing that these conditions are just as valid as any physical ailment, and they deserve equal compassion and support.
The source material really emphasizes that mental health struggles are part of a person's story, not their entire identity.
Yes, absolutely. And that's such an important distinction to make.
It is. It encourages us to see the whole person, not just their challenges.
Right.
So it seems like this Mind Matters episode is setting the stage for a deeper dive into some of the most common mental health struggles, like anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
I know this can be heavy, but honestly, I think knowing more about these issues can actually be quite empowering.
I agree.
What does the source material say about anxiety?
It describes anxiety as this persistent feeling of worry and tension and being easily overwhelmed by everyday things.
Yeah, everyone experiences anxiety sometimes.
Right. But it becomes a problem when it starts to disrupt your daily life.
Okay, so it's really about the severity
Yeah,
and how much it's impacting your life.
exactly. And what's really interesting is that this episode dives into specific types of anxiety disorders, like generalized anxiety disorder and social anxiety disorder, to really illustrate how diverse anxiety can be.
Wow, I didn't realize there were so many different types. I mean, what about depression? The source material mentions that it's more than just feeling sad.
Right, it impacts your energy levels,
Yeah.
your sleep patterns,
Yeah.
your appetite, even your ability to experience joy.
Wow.
And it can manifest in different ways too. Some people withdraw, while others might mask their struggles.
So even if someone seems fine on the surface, they could still be dealing with depression behind closed doors.
Absolutely.
That's really insightful. So how does this Mind Matters episode suggest we approach taking care of our mental health?
It frames it in a very empowering way,
Yeah.
emphasizing that you are not a passive bystander in your own well-being.
I like that.
Yeah, you have the power to take control. And it offers a variety of different strategies, starting with building a strong support system.
So important. It's like having a team of cheerleaders in your corner, reminding you that you're not alone.
Exactly.
What are some of the other strategies?
Well, one that stood out to me was the emphasis on mindfulness and relaxation techniques.
Okay.
It suggests things like meditation, deep breathing exercises, and spending time in nature.
Those are all great, and I think accessible to everyone, regardless of their experience or resources. And I also noticed that Mind Matters emphasizes the importance of maintaining a healthy routine.
Yes.
How does that tie into our mental well-being?
There's a really powerful connection between our physical health and our mental health.
For sure.
The source material makes a great point about prioritizing things like getting enough sleep, eating a balanced diet, and incorporating regular exercise into your routine.
Yeah, those are simple but powerful habits. That can make a big difference in how you feel.
Absolutely.
It's like a holistic approach to self-care, recognizing that our physical and mental well-being are intertwined.
I like that.
And what about setting boundaries? The source material mentions that as a key element of prioritizing mental health.
Yes, setting boundaries is all about learning to say no when you need to and prioritizing your own needs.
Okay.
You can't pour from an empty cup, so you have to take steps to protect your energy
Yeah.
and well-being.
It's not selfish to put your own needs first.
It's essential.
Exactly. The source material also underscores the importance of seeking professional help when needed.
Absolutely. Therapy,
Yeah.
counseling, and even medication can be incredibly valuable tools
Yeah.
for managing mental health challenges.
It's like having a mental health GPS, someone to guide you through the ups and downs of life.
Exactly. And just as you wouldn't hesitate to see a doctor for a physical ailment, you shouldn't hesitate to seek professional support for your mental well-being.
Right. And I'm really glad that this Mind Matters podcast highlighted that. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've explored the spectrum of mental health, the importance of challenging stigma, common struggles like anxiety and depression, and even some practical strategies for taking care of your well-being.
I think what's so compelling about the source material is how it emphasizes that mental health is a journey, not a destination.
I like that. It's about developing healthy coping mechanisms, building resilience, and seeking support when you need it.
Yeah, it's not about achieving some perfect state of well-being. It's about navigating the ups and downs of life with self-awareness and compassion,
Totally.
and recognizing that you have the power to take control of your mental health through these simple but effective strategies.
Well, that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into mental health. We've got plenty more to unpack, so stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue to explore this important topic and uncover even more insights from our source material.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're continuing our exploration of mental health with the help of the Mind Matters podcast episode.
You know, in the first part, we talked a lot about how mental health is something we all have and why it's so important to take care of it, just like our physical health.
Right, and we also dove into how much stigma still surrounds mental health and how that can prevent people from seeking help or even just talking about their experiences. So I really appreciate how Mind Matters tackles this head on and emphasizes how important it is to have open and honest conversations about mental health.
Yeah, it's really about shifting the narrative from shame and secrecy to understanding and support.
And speaking of support, the source material goes beyond just acknowledging the stigma and offers this really powerful message directly to the listener.
You're right. It's almost like a virtual hand reaching out, saying, hey, you're not alone in this journey. It's okay not to be okay.
I love that, and it really drives home the point that reaching out for support is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Exactly.
I also really like how Mind Matters reminds us that mental health is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah, that's such a powerful perspective. It really shifts the focus from achieving some perfect state of well-being to understanding that mental health is an ongoing process.
It's like tending to a garden, right? You have to consistently water it, nourish the soil, and pull out the weeds.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And the source material gives some really specific tips on what that tending might look like.
Okay.
Talks about building resilience, learning healthy coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
and practicing self-care.
And of course, it also emphasizes seeking professional help when needed.
Absolutely.
It's like having a mental health GPS, someone to guide you through the terrain and help you navigate those challenging paths.
And just like you wouldn't hesitate to see a doctor for a physical ailment, you shouldn't hesitate to seek professional support for your mental well-being.
The source material also points out that there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to mental health.
Right, what works for one person might not work for another, and that's totally fine.
Exactly. The key is to find what works for you and what helps you feel your best.
It's all about discovering those tools and strategies that work for your individual journey.
And it's a journey that will undoubtedly have its ups and downs.
That's true.
Yeah.
But the important thing is to keep moving forward and to never give up on your own well-being.
Yeah. The source material doesn't sugarcoat it. There will be challenges, but it emphasizes that there is always hope.
And that hope can be found in a variety of places, from connecting with loved ones, to seeking professional help, to simply practicing self-compassion.
It's so important to remember that seeking help is a sign of strength and self-awareness, not weakness.
I agree. It takes courage to acknowledge that you need support and to reach out for it.
So as we start to wrap up this part of our deep dive, What are some of the key messages you hope our listener is taking away?
I think the most important takeaway is that mental health is something we all need to prioritize, just like our physical health.
Okay.
It's about fostering those positive qualities,
Yeah.
like confidence, purpose, and resilience.
And it's about recognizing that we all have our struggles, but there are resources and people available to help.
Yeah, the source material highlights the importance of building a support system, practicing self-care, and seeking professional help when you need it.
And it reminds us that it's okay not to be okay, and that asking for help is a sign of strength, not
I-
weakness.
I hope those messages resonate with our listener.
Me too. And as we get ready to move into the final part of our deep dive, I'm curious to see how the source material suggests we move forward from here. How do we take these insights and turn them into action?
Welcome back to the deep dive. It's been a really interesting journey exploring the world of mental health with you.
Yeah, we've unpacked so much from this Mind Matters episode.
We have.
Everything from understanding what mental health is
Mhm.
to practical tips for improving your well-being.
You know, one of the things that has really stuck with me is how much this Mind Matters episode emphasizes that we can all do our part in ending the stigma surrounding mental health.
I agree. It's not just about taking care of your own well-being. It's also about creating a more supportive environment
Right.
for everyone. It's like shining a light on something that has been hidden in the shadows for too long.
Yeah, and I think by talking about it
Yeah.
openly and honestly, we can encourage others to do the same.
The source material actually uses a really great analogy to illustrate this point. It compares talking about mental health to breaking a chain. So
Right.
every time someone speaks up, they're breaking a link in that chain of stigma and making it easier for others to follow.
That's such a powerful image.
It really highlights the ripple effect that these open conversations can have, and it reminds us that even small actions can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Whether it's sharing your own experiences, listening with empathy to someone who's struggling, or simply advocating for mental health awareness, every effort counts.
I think it's also important to remember that ending the stigma isn't just about grand gestures. It's also about those everyday interactions that we have with each other.
Exactly. It's about treating mental health
Yeah.
with the same level of care and concern as we treat physical health.
It's about checking in on friends and family, offering support without judgment, and using language that is respectful and understanding.
And it's about recognizing that everyone's journey is different. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to mental health.
Right. The source material made a really good point about the importance of meeting people where they are, offering support without trying to fix them or minimize their experiences.
It's about listening with empathy and validating their feelings, even if we don't fully understand what they're going through.
And sometimes the most supportive thing we can do is simply be present, listen without judgment, and just offer a shoulder to lean on.
So true.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into mental health, what are some final takeaways that you hope our listeners will carry with them?
Well, first, I really hope they remember that mental health is just as important as physical health. It's something we all need to prioritize and care for.
And it's okay not to be okay. It's a sign of strength to ask for help when you need it.
Yeah. I also hope they feel empowered to challenge the stigma surrounding mental health, whether it's through open conversations, acts of kindness, or simply advocating for greater understanding and acceptance.
And to remember that they're not alone on this journey. There are resources available, people who care, and always hope for a brighter tomorrow.
I love that.
Now, to leave you with one final thought, imagine a friend confides in you about their mental health struggles. What would be the most supportive and helpful way that you could respond based on what we talked about today?
That's a great question to consider as you continue your own mental health journey.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into mental health. We hope you found it as insightful and empowering as we did.
Remember to take care of yourselves, prioritize your well-being, and keep being a force for positive change in the world.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.